What you got for us, Chris?
I think riding the rail at shows is just way overrated.
Yeah, 100%.
Getting there early and being right up front it's not the best spot. You're kind of locked in the front. I was reminded by this because you brought up Bonnaroo, and I saw a video of the gates open and maybe 200 people just full sprinting across an open field to go stand at front at like 10 a.m. and they probably stood there 12 hours, 14 hours. It's just not worth it. Just stand in the back near the sound booth. You're going to get a better mix. You're going to have a better time. Like, I just don't get the hype.
I'm going to kind of say that I kind of agree with that. I also think you don't get the best sound there.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
I don't know if you just, but I don't think you get much better sound when you get back a little bit and you're able to do it. And I don't think anyone thinks to themselves like, "Whoa, they're up front. They must know somebody." There's no clout that comes with it. It just means you,
Right.
you know. And I remember I was at Sunfest with my daughter, and she was like mad short. Somebody just this big, just got bullied his way in front. And I'm like, well, yeah, okay, you got in front of the small kid. Like,
Yeah.
What did you really accomplish?
It's that ultimate scarcity complex, right?
Yeah.
It's like people that just like are total FOMO, afraid of missing out on something. I definitely don't see any value in going up to the front of the stage. I would much rather. Now, here's what I'll say is that we played this festival called Orange Blossom Review. We brought our sound guy with a shout out to Eric Kaufman, who's a dope sound guy here in Jacksonville. We brought him with us, and he kept giving me shit because I was standing closer to the stage than I was to the sound system. But in my defense, after I play, I'm not really looking to get the best sound possible. I'm kind of trying to decompress. So I was like kind of off to the side of the stage and not really wanting to experience the full show head on at that moment. But for most people, I think that are just there to go see shows, I think that a lot of it for them is just seeing the artist up close, and it's not so much about the sound or the comfort of the experience. Like, they will sacrifice all of that just to make sure they get, that shot of the stage or the artist or whoever, whatever it is,
Yeah. Like a smaller venue show, I could see that, because it's going to sound pretty consistent across the whole place, but yeah, it's all clippable, I guess, nowadays. You just want the Instagram hit.
That's what it is, yeah, really. That's a good unpopular opinion, though. I love that one. I definitely agree with you. I hate throw pillows.
Uh-huh. We're on to something.
Here's the thing. I can understand trying to make a place look presentable and trying to add like an artistic value to the home space. At a certain point, though, there's also like, if something's not functional, why does it exist? We can be artistic and functional at the same time. At the point where we're just sacrificing function and in fact adding more work to my plate for the sake of making something look nice, when it's supposed to be built around comfort, count me out 100%.
It's funny.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, I don't disagree, but in order to get me in trouble, I'm going to say I kind of disagree.
Yeah, of course.
But no, I don't disagree. Yeah, I grew up in a house with like the living room you don't touch. You don't go in there. You have the pillows that are on your couch, but you don't actually sit on them.
Right.
So I like that. I like things that are functional. So I remember being very, very intentional about getting a couch that my kids could jump around on and have fun on, and being very intentional about the things that everything is accessible, right? You still got to treat it right, but just treat everything right.
Right.
And just doing that. But to my mother's credit, though, I'll say like, oh, we were never allowed to sit on the couch. And she's like, that's why I still have that couch.
Yeah.
Well, that's always the thing. So, I mean, you can't argue with that logic, I guess.
No, totally. Chris, you don't strike me much as a making your bed kind of guy. I don't know about throw pillows.
Well, you know why they're called throw pillows, right?
Because you throw them on the ground.
100%.
Yeah.
Get that shit out of here.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm not into it. If anyone disagrees, you can leave your comments in the comments section below. Let me know about how passionate you are about throw pillows.
Well, we've just got to upgrade now. Get a nice blanket and put that on the couch that looks good, because then you have a blanket on your couch. You can still let's upgrade.
Yeah, well, we'll get some throw pillows for the couch while we're at it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say that Disney ruined Marvel and Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
Aha.
Like, absolutely ruined them, and it's sad, and it makes me sad. I loved comics growing up. I have boxes of them. Like if you were to just look right over there, there's stacks of graphic novels up
Oh
there.
yeah, I see
You know
him.
what I mean? Like
Wow.
there's the Avatar, The Last Airbender, you know, and it's just like Lucasfilm came around and decided that was more important. You know, listen, I'm as a mixed race person myself, who's but from Jamaica, I am all about representation and seeing hopefully that there are women out there that are in media and places that my daughters can look up to. But I've never been about just clicking and ticking boxes at the sake of the quality of the product, right? Like
Totally.
if you're going to write a good story and you're going to make certain demographics as a part of a character that but it's not the only character trait, if you're going to write women in a way that's relatable because they have a hero's journey and a struggle, and you take into account the fact that they are very small and that males are much bigger, and you have them use strengths that are inherent to females, like, but no one can relate to someone who's like obviously 80 pounds and kicking 250-pound judo wrestlers butts all over the place,
Right.
and never having the only thing they had to discover was that the power was with them all along and it was everybody else that was holding them back. And I'm like, yeah, well, my daughters have flaws, like they have, like, just like everybody else, so they want to see somebody who they can see themselves in overcoming a flaw of conceit or the flaw of being too this or being this, and they have to figure it out. I mean, you just look at like the old Mulan with the new Mulan, and the old Mulan, like, she wasn't beating everybody up. She was like, all right, well, I'm not going to win this physically, so I'm going to have to use my smarts. I'm going to have to use,
Playing to her strengths. Yeah.
right, these strengths that are inherent in like other things, and she had to figure it out. But it wasn't. You look at the new one, and she just kicks everybody's butt and can float off a roof from when she's 7 years old. So it's like these aren't relatable characters. They're not likable characters. They're ruining all the legacy characters that we grew up with. They don't like the fans. They don't like, and whatever. And so like all the old men got to go and replace with the young women,
Right.
which there's a character arc. If it's earned and there's a point, then fine, But I just watched Terminator 2 the other day, because I think it's on Netflix right now, and I was like, dude, Linda Hamilton was a boss.
Yeah.
I mean, but she wasn't like kicking Arnold's butt all of a sudden because she worked out and she was the lead. Ripley was a boss. Disney comes along and was like, well, we're going to Disneyfy all this stuff, and fine. There are ways to do all the things that Disney does with these movies, and think about a way to enhance the story, like to create the story, and you can put anything you want. Look at you got me going now. Look at like Lin-Manuel, what do you do? Hamilton.
Hamilton. Yeah.
Who cares that George Washington is black? Who cares? Because the story is great and the production is great, and no one's like, well, they race swapped George Washington. No
Oh,
one cares.
you'd be surprised. I've heard some arguments, and some of the responsibility is on the audience to suspend belief a little bit.
Well, sure, and it's a fact that they did it with everybody.
Yeah,
Too.
exactly.
It's like it doesn't make a difference, but it's not even that. But you look at like
Yeah,
the new
true.
Little Mermaid. Don't use this as a soundbite now.
No.
But they can listen to it if they listen to the rest of the podcast.
Yeah.
You take a Little Mermaid. First of all, I think as we deserve, there's lots of great black characters out there, and I think that we should inherently, like, we don't need to make Superman black. There's Icon. Like, let's examine him. Like, there's all sorts of great black characters. They don't need to just be like, well, we're lazy creatively, so let's just take this one and make him black.
Thank you. That
doesn't make me feel good.
Right.
Like, it just, I like Superman white. Like, so let's create new ones for the kids today, and let's be creative, and
That's it, right?
like, there's great black characters, but also it's the fact that like the rest of the movie's terrible, and when everyone comes out and says like the movie was bad, everyone's like, oh, look, you just don't. I've seen threads where somebody will be like, the movie's terrible, and they'll be like, you're racist, and I'll be like, well, the movie was terrible, and then crickets.
Yeah.
Because when you get, you know what I mean, like, because, and then they learn the wrong lessons.
Yeah.
So you take like a Little Mermaid, which is one of my favorite movies. There's this part where she has all her stuff in there, and her father comes and finds it, and she's like talking to the Prince Eric. She's like, "Oh, really? Sure, I'll marry you." Yeah. And he comes and finds it, the father, and he's just like, "This is not good." And in the original movie, his whole motive is like protecting his daughter, and he's like, "Nothing's getting through to you, and if this is the only way that I have to get through to you is to destroy all this stuff, so you see how serious I am, then so be it," and destroys all this stuff. And she's freaking out. And as he leaves, this little moment, he looks back, and she's crying, and he's just like,
yes, I remember that. Yeah.
miserable, and walks out, because you realize he didn't want to do any of that. He just felt he needed to protect his daughter, and if he'd rather have his daughter hate him and her be safe and alive, which I can very, very much relate to as a father of a teenage daughter. However, in the new one, he just loses it. loses it, and he's just like, you know what, you're not going to listen, because the rest of the movie is set up where the daughters are allowed to go to the surface, so it's not as much of a safety thing. People know about them, whatever the case may be. He just loses it because he's pissed off she's not listening, and he's now just a narcissistic jerk who's just abusive and just decided to do that, and then storms off like a jerk.
Right. There's no nuance.
But the focus was not making her be all. And when she doesn't want him to destroy the statue of Prince Eric, is because she thinks he was about to destroy the crab guy, Sebastian, who was sitting on it. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, now you just made fathers look like an idiot, like he's an abusive a-hole. And as opposed to this whole moment where you had this like family dynamic, and it's these little things that they learn the wrong lessons. They take the wrong things. Well, we can't have her going up there for no boy. But first of all, what's wrong with a love story and, procreating and keeping the human race going? Nothing's wrong with that.
It's interesting. I was thinking about the Little Mermaid while you were bringing this up, and it's not something that I've thought too much about. I don't have children, so I'm not going to really see the movie because I don't really care to see the movie, and also like. But people made a big stink about it, and I didn't really think one way or another about it. I was okay, well, that's how you feel, whatever. And then I had somebody recently say, oh, well, the new Little Mermaid came out. They were like my age, and they were like, the new Little Mermaid came out, and it's really a great watch. Everyone should go see it. She's black now, so that's very, very important to go support stuff like that. And I started thinking about, I didn't get into it with her because I didn't want to it was like a family dinner thing. I didn't want to get into all that, but I just kind of sat there and I was thinking, I was like, well, and then somebody else was like, yeah, all this uproar about it, like just how more blatantly racist could you be? And then I started thinking more about it, and I was like, let me think about this, because it can't just be as simple as being racist, right? There's got to be something else to it. And I was like, maybe if they just would have taken the same concept and made a different character rather than taking the existing character and making her a different race, because at some point it just seems lazy, like you were saying. It's not creative, it's lazy, and it's just like you could have created a new storyline with the same kind of premise but a different character and avoided all this controversy. But the purpose wasn't really to create something artistic and to represent anybody. The purpose was to create controversy, and that's what they ended up doing. And it still helps sell tickets.
They spend no money on CGI anymore.
Right.
So if everything's dark and gloomy, you can't tell the CGI is trash.
Right.
You know what I mean? So any insult can be deflected by saying this is toxic or this is whatever. This is the thing. And it's like, I think Halle Bailey did a fine job. The other thing is too, but she's a kid, so she didn't really act very well. Whereas if you have voiceovers in animation, they could be 29 years old, 30 years old, have all this experience with voice acting, and you have these better interactions, and these better. But you obviously have to use a kid if you're going to be doing this. And how good are child actors really? None of the criticism is usually levied at her. It's just like, this story was terrible. These live action animals look scary, like they have no emotion, and it's the stuff of nightmares. So it's really weird. And honestly, I think we're swinging back the other way. I think when you see movies like that are just simple, like the Top Gun movie that came out, and that was just a good movie where you weren't making fun of the aged guy to try to replace him with the new hip one. He was still the guy. There's also that trend of like mentors have to be like shown. Like, there's no mentors. Like the young people know better now.
Right.
So you have these self-inserts who are sort of like, these actors have grown up and now they're putting themselves sort of in these roles. This is what they'd like to do or they'd like to see. I would love to see more black stories being told, more Asian stories being told. I think Crazy Rich Asians was a good example. They didn't just take Best Friend's Wedding and make them all Asian.
Right.
It's like, right. Create a new story, like be creative.
Exactly.
But it's more important to me to see real people showing people what's possible. I think the uproar over all of it is kind of silly.